Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and today marks the return of the Chromatic Cube to Magic Arena. For those who don't know, instead of drafting from booster packs from one specific set, in Cube drafts we are drafting from a curated list of the strongest cards on Arena, and as you can see in Chromatic Cube here, we've got a big focus on the multicolored spells, so a lot of big splashy stuff going on. You can play up to 5 color decks here, which is pretty wild, but one thing that's really important to mention is that since Cube drafts are loaded with rares and mythics, as you can see here, this is going to be a phantom event, so we aren't going to be keeping any of the cards that we draft. We are just playing for the fun of the event and the prizes on the tracker. With that spiel out of the way, let's go ahead and hop into the draft and see where the cards take us today. Alright, here we are for our pack 1 pick 1. As always, going to be tons of really powerful options in the cube. Also multiple cards I've never read before because there's some alchemy nonsense, unfortunately, since this is Arena Cube. What does this do? 7 mana for a 4/7 lifelinker. When they enter the battlefield, conjure a card of your choice from the spellbook into your hand. You can cast it without paying its mana cost. So she comes with instant removal for artifacts, enchantments, creatures, or you can get a 3/2 body. And no matter what you gain for when she enters the battlefield as well, at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, create an XX white avatar where X is the amount of life you gained. Hold up. Conjure it into your hand, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So she enters the battlefield with the removal spell and a 4/4 alongside her? I mean, that's pretty busted. Triple white and 4 is a lot of mana, and there's plenty of pretty busted 7-drops, so I don't know if this is something we should be pack 1 pick 1ing when just gigantic finishers are super replaceable, but first time I've ever seen the card, first time I've ever read the card. I don't hate trying it out here, playing a life gain deck with St. Elenda at the top of the curve. Most flexible options, Solemn Simulacrum, just solid ramp for anything, since this is a pretty splashy cube, that would be reasonable. Or just taking some cheap card draw like Discovery would be fine, but I don't know, seems like a fun enough, powerful enough life gainer for the top of the curve in any deck. Pick number 2, we've got more incredibly busted cards, as always. We've got excellent flexible mana ramp actually with Wayfarer's Bauble here, which is kind of interesting to me. Gives any deck a rampant growth, 1 mana to play, but then on turn 2 you grab whatever basic you need, put it into play. So ramps you up the curve, and this is a really splashy cube, so I think Wayfarer's Bauble actually might be a pretty high pick. There's also cheap interaction, which there isn't a lot of in the cube. There's Play with Fire and Werefox Bodyguard for cheap ways to try to kill something. We've got more expensive, more explosive ways to kill things like the Cavalier, and then the gigantic, just insta-win Sublime Epiphany counter. Grenzo's another like insta-win kind of finisher, but Obsidat's really good with St. Elenda, and 3-colored lands are pretty high pickups, like Spara's Headquarters here, green, blue, and white there. Really, really strong pack. There's also a 6/6 lifelinker to go with St. Elenda, but again, top-end cards I think are more replaceable. This might be overdoing it here, but I think I'm going to take Wayfarer's Bauble, because I don't think I would cut this out of like any deck in this cube, because we're almost always pretty splashy, and even when we're not, we've got really restrictive mana costs like triple white. There's Breach the Multiverse. This is what I'm saying about the cube just being completely loaded with top-end finishers. I don't think you need to take most of them particularly highly, because no matter what, you're going to get some amount of 6 and 7 mana, incredibly explosive ways to win the game. But I think I will still take Breach the Multiverse pretty highly, because the stronger each player's deck is, the stronger the Breach the Multiverse is, and the less likely it is for your opponent to ever win against it. If you're breaching in March the Multiverse draft, or March the Machines draft, you're already probably going to win. If you're resolving a breach in Chromatic Cube, like, you're slamming down your St. Elenda and, like, your opponent's Zakama or something a lot of the time, like, it's almost impossible to lose after it, so I think that's a strong enough 7-drop finisher to take pretty highly. St. Elenda was more of just trying out new things. I don't think we probably should have taken St. Elenda that high, but Breach the Multiverse, I think it's actually reasonable to take that super early. Pick 4, we've got Anguished Unmaking for cheap interaction if we stick to black-white, or Collective Brutality, which is slightly more flexible, but it kills smaller things only. But you can also use it as a discard spell or life drain spell. I like the Anguished Unmaking here. We can also take Massacre Worm as the mini board wipe, but it is a lot of mana at 6. And I guess we've already got the Bauble towards that. If we want more ramp, there's a Bronze Walrus as an option, but it's quite filler ramp. I like the 1 and 2 mana pieces of ramp better. Yeah, Unmaking or the Massacre Worm. I guess I'll actually go Massacre Worm here. We'll grab the board wipe. Pick 5, there's Godless Shrine, which is perfect. We are black-white right now. There's also Blade Splicer for a cheap creature, or Noxious Gearhulk for a big menacing threat and a removal spell all in one, and that removal spell gains us life if we find more life gain synergies to go with Saint Elenda, so I'm actually going to go Gearhulk. And this is the problem I have every time I draft Chromatic Cube, and why I recommend drafting cheap pieces of ramp so highly and cheap pieces of interaction whenever you see them. It's so hard to resist not just taking nothing but 6 and 7 mana bombs and stuff, and just having the worst curve of all time, where you're not casting any spells until like turn 5 and onward. So I might take Guardian Idol here. It's cheap ramp. Gilded Lotus, 5 mana ramp, but as soon as the Gilded Lotus is on board, like the rest of our hand is castable for the rest of the game, so that's pretty cool. It's another huge finisher with Emrakul. It's a black-white duel with Endotha Triome. I don't like Lion Sash that much. I don't think that's the greatest cheap card to play, but Sedgemoor Witch is pretty reasonable. I'm just going to go for the Guardian Idol. Let's get more cheap ramp so that I can kind of get away with running nothing but 6 mana nonsense. 3 mana Lightning Helix, 3 mana for 3 to any target you gain 3. This seems like fine cheap removal. Feed the Swarm's also fine cheap removal. This one's a little bit more flexible, but you do have to lose a bunch of life for it. Saboteur is annoying. Little Death Toucher, and if your opponent doesn't have cheap creatures on board, you can start making them discard cards with your Virus Beetles. I think all 3 of these are very reasonable, but I like taking more life gain nonsense. I'm going to go Oath of Kaya here. Be black-white lifelink, black-white life gain. Ooh, Drown and Ichor I'm very happy with. I don't have anything to proliferate onto, but still, 2 mana -4/-4 is efficient. O'Hare, yet another incredibly fun 6 or 7 mana finisher. You just can't play 5,000 of them in your deck. Lord Skitter is quite the army in the can for a token kind of deck, a go-wide deck, but I'm going to grab that cheap removal this time. Pick 9, reasonable card draw here with Discovery. Even if we don't play any blue, we can just Surveil 2, draw a card. I think that's the closest to getting played here. Maybe we take Overgrown Farmland just in case for fixing. Yeah, we're never going to be excited about that Discovery anyway, but we might end up with some random green stuff. Cavalier of Night is super nice for us. We're already pretty thematic with a bunch of life gain in this deck, and this is a life-gaining removal spell. We've got a creature to sack alongside it. This Triome went really late. It's also a solid sign for super multicolored stuff, but we have a triple black spell and a triple white spell, so we're about to take a second triple black spell. I think it's probably safest here to try to keep the mana base pretty tame and actually be like a 2-color Chromatic Cube deck with maybe like 1 splash. Scrutiny of the Guild Pack is another alchemy nonsense card. I don't have any other multicolored creatures right now, but that's cute. I'll just take the Sacred Foundry for the same reason we took the Overgrown Farmland. Now we can take a Bronze Walrus. How many dinosaurs did they put in this cube? This has got to be pretty fun, right? 5 mana 4/4 that discovers when it hits the board is already not that bad. If you play enough other dinos, that card's going to be nuts. Oh, we could bury it in the garden. This is removal that also ramps us, and we have 1 green land already. I'll do that instead of speculating on another different color. And then here's Maelstrom Pulse for more green removal to splash in, although Cloud Blazer is really good with flicker effects. I'm actually going to speculate towards Cloud Blazer. Okay, pack 2, pick 1. We've got a 2 mana lifelinker, so we have an actual cheap card to play that also fits our life gain theme. We've got a Restoration Angel. If we get enough good to enter the battlefield effects on our non-angel creatures, then that is a great one to flicker them. So that's good to flicker Saint Elenda, it's good to flicker Noxious Gearhulk, it's good to flicker Massacre Worm, it's good to flicker Cavalier of Night. So pretty much everything we've drafted so far is good to flicker with Restoration Angel, so we might actually just go for that. Also, we can just flash it in turn 4 to have an early blocker. Archangel Elspeth is fine. She's one of the planeswalkers that doesn't have any way to protect herself. I mean, making a soldier gives you a chump blocker, but like there's no removal spell or bounce spell kind of thing attached. So she's kind of like a slow buffer. She makes some life linkers over time. I don't love her. There is Pull of the Mist Moon, one of the alchemy cards that literally has a scroll bar. Oh, how we all love alchemy. It's basically Oblivion Ring, but if you kick it, it can be two. It can be two exile removal spells, which is pretty good, but it's also alchemy nonsense. I'm just going to take Restoration Angel there. Now there's a Price of Fame, really efficient removal in this format where there's tons of legends. Get to Surveil when you cast it as well. Pretty happy with that. Golos. Somebody gets to be the 5-color Golos deck in this draft pod. Don't worry, I am sure I will be the Golos Primeval Titan Field of the Dead deck in at least one of these drafts, but this is not that draft to start things off. Pick 3. There's Isolated Chapel, the perfect little duel for us here. Taking it over Sun Titan, which is quite good, but also just yet another 6 or 7 mana finisher. Would rather grab that fixing. We have triple black and triple white costs, and those are pretty prohibitive. Temple of Silence, another black-white duel looks great for us. We could splash in like a little lightning bolt for cheap interaction if we get enough red sources like Sundown Pass alongside our Sacred Foundry, but we would need a lot to splash in cheap cards. I would rather just grab a Temple here. We've already got a Drown and Ichor, an Oath of Kaya, Price of Fame now. We're not doing horrible on early removal spells. Pick 5, there's another just 2-mana Mana Rock, very similar to the Guardian Idol. Seems fine. We could also speculate on another color. Rizug is interesting. The most interesting part about Rizug is the artwork, too. Super weird on a Magic card. But I mean, it's pretty strong graveyard recursion. Loses all the other types. You just get like the abilities on the card, but like recasting a Massacre Worm from grave just to give everybody -2/-2 again is not bad, even if you don't have the creature attached. Obviously, Railway Brawler would be a pretty nasty splash, but I grab that ramp. Pick 6 is Booty. Yeah, I am not excited about any of these cards. Grab an Incubation Druid, I guess. We managed to go deep enough on green where we go like black, green, splash white or something. Now we have Buried in the Garden and Incubation Druid for ramp. I think it's a little late to go Yorion. Yorion can be a fun companion if you play every single card you draft, but you kind of have to play every single card you draft to run a 60-card deck. It can be difficult if you didn't immediately go in with that plan in mind, which we didn't here. I guess Nashi's fine. Lantern's fine too, but thinking just a 2-color deck. Chromatic Lantern's not that important. Charming Prince is super efficient. God Eternal Oketra is super nasty. You play any other creatures to go alongside her, you're getting 4/4 zombie warriors every time you do. Black Market Connections could be pretty good in a life gain deck, though. Make sure that we have the life to keep using like all these abilities over and over. Get a 3/2 and draw a card and get a treasure. Costs a lot of life, but we've got a lot of life gain. I actually am interested in trying this card out. It's not good in a super wide variety of decks, but this is like the deck for it, and we want more life gain to go with it, so we take the life linker over the removal spell here. I like just going really deep on a specific archetype and just seeing how it plays out for us here. Certainly were other options in the draft pod, but there's always going to be plenty of other great options in Chromatic Cube, so this is fine. Just really check out the black-white archetype. We got the Sun Titan back. I think that's probably better than a Mule. 3 mana for the exile thing. I don't think we're playing Hedron Archive. I guess I don't have a lot of permanents with mana value 3 or less in the deck right now. I've got a few. I'll still try the Sun Titan out. But it might be one of the first cuts if we don't find more cheap permanents to play. Alright, we are on 19 playables. 2 of these are lands, so 17 out of 23. We need 6 more playable cards in the final pack. And this should work out pretty well for us. Just got to get 6 solid cards here, and we are starting great. We've got the big life linker, which I think I want to take. We've got some really expensive life payments off of Nashi and Black Market Connections. So we want to have a ton of lifelink to pay for those. And then obviously if we ever cast a Saint Elenda, we're going to get just the world's biggest avatar as well, if we have a big lifelinker on board before we do that, like a Lyra. Lyra also buffs the Restoration Angel and gives that lifelink, so that's pretty sweet. I like the Lyra here. We could also take the board wipe of Invasion of Fiora, which is pretty solid, or the cheap removal from Planar Disruption. That's probably the safest pick. But I think I take Lyra and hopefully wheel the Kaya. We'll see. Pack 3, pick 2. Here's a 2-mana 2/1 Menace lifelink. So that would be reasonable in the deck. What is Pearl Collector? 3-mana 3/3 Death Touch lifelink. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you gained 4 or more life this turn, conjure Mox Pearl into your hand. And you can have your other creatures perpetually gain lifelink, so like permanently? Okay, this is not good the vast majority of the time, but for this exact deck, this is the one time this might actually be decent. It sounds a lot cooler than it does, because conjuring a Mox Pearl, you're like, I'm getting a piece of the Power 9, but it's like really, it's almost like you just made the Pearl Collector a mana dork. Like, that's not that crazy, but it's cool. It's new alchemy nonsense that specifically only really works well in this deck. I'm going to take Pearl Collector. Chupacabra's also a really reasonable pick just for removal, but we will play the Pearl Collector, because this will probably be the only time that I draft Pearl Collector this time around. We've got a Braids here. That's good if we have some really expendable stuff to sacrifice, which we kind of don't right now. I'd almost rather take Liliana, just another big finisher. I don't think there's anything I really want to sacrifice towards Braids. Does she let me sack an enchantment? Yeah, I mean, I guess she's good with Oath of Kaya, exactly. And almost nothing else that we have. But she's pretty good with Oath of Kaya. Yeah, that's kind of it, though. Let's take the Liliana. Liliana is just an insane finisher. Probably cut the Sun Titan for the Liliana. Whenever any of our creatures die, we draw a card now. We spit out a creature every turn. We can have each player sack 2, so she can like control the board pretty well. It's a great card. Speaking of great cards, Field of the Dead, that is for the Golos Primeval Titan deck that tutors that out every game, and it was super annoying and super unstoppable, but we're not on that deck this time around. We just take Davriel, which there's so many conditions, I don't even know. And so many offers, I just don't know what this card actually does. It's hard to know by reading it. It's that or a Leyline Binding in a 2-color deck, so I'm just going to take the Davriel. And I guess we'll figure it out. Pick 5, cheap removal with Sheoldred's Edict, or slightly more expensive, but more flexible removal with Cast Out. One more, like 2 drops here. I'm going to take the Edict. Pick 6. Thraben Inspector is a fine, cheap value play. Perforator Crocodile is kind of like a second Massacre Worm. Instead of the temporary -2/-2, make your opponent lose a bunch of life immediately, this is a permanent -2/-2, and for everything that stayed on the board, your opponent keeps losing life. Plus, this has cycling if it's not good in that position. Wandering Emperor is really flexible and really strong, though, and also only 4 mana, and this chunk of 6 and 7s kind of leans me towards the Thraben Inspector. I do think, or not the Thraben Inspector, the Wandering Emperor, but I do think Perforator Crocodile is a very cool card, so I want to give it a shout out on that one, even though I'll go ahead and take the Wandering Emperor. Pick 7, Vraska, I guess, 5 mana Planeswalker. Very strong one, removal and a card draw engine. Plenty of options on that. Ugin's a super powerful Planeswalker. It's removal or an endless army of 2/2s. So we're actually just black-white Planeswalkers, and the Oath of Kaya might actually trigger when our opponents attack our Planeswalkers? I thought that the second ability on Oath of Kaya was just definitely going to be flavor text, but at this point it's kind of not. We could take a second 6-mana board wipe here, or another 2-mana removal spell. I think I would like another 2-mana removal spell. Pick 10, we get the Menace Lifelinker. Let's go. Sorry, Bolas. One day. Soon, my king. Well, we get the Braids. I don't think we're playing her. We get the Field of the Dead. No! Criminal. Nobody's doing the Field of the Dead thing. R.I.P. Not gonna play any of these, and that will probably be the same for the last couple picks. I guess I could have splashed in that green card because it has lifelink, but let's just be a pure black-white life gain and planeswalkers deck. It's pretty cool. We get to cut 5 cards here. I think we're cutting Sun Titan. Bronze Walrus is the worst ramp. Braids with not a lot of good stuff to sack. That's 3 out of 5 cuts. I guess the Shieldred's Edict can be awkward if we draw it at the wrong time. Because if we draw Planar Disruption first, then we'll pacify one of their cards and we top deck a Shieldred's Edict and they'll just sacrifice whatever we enchanted. So, like, one of these two could be the cut just because if we draw both of these in the same game, then that could be bad for us. So I could cut the Nashi here. We're not the best at ninjutsuing it in. We have one Menacer and like a couple high mana value flyers, like once we're really late in the game. So most of the time I think we're just going to have to hard cast this and hope that we can clear out their creatures with 1 or 2 cheap removal spells. It's a really cool card though. It's probably pretty strong in Chromatic Cube. I mean, if it ever connects, it's definitely pretty strong. Problem is how often we can get it to connect. I could also just cut Davriel just because I simply don't know what on earth the offers and conditions are and all that, but I want to keep the Planeswalker count at like the maximum here. Be the black-white Oath of Kaya Planeswalkers deck. That seems pretty fun. I guess I don't have a lot of expendable creatures for the Cavalier of Night. You have to sacrifice another creature. Otherwise, this is a 5-mana 4/5 lifelinker, which is like a way worse version of Lyra. We've only got 3 or 4 creatures that can reanimate when it dies, so that part's not even consistent. Yeah, if I play this without like an adversary or null priest on board, it's pretty bad, and even with one of those, I am sacking a legitimate card to destroy an opposing creature. Not the best Cavalier of Night deck. Yeah, I'll go and drop Shieldred's Edict and Cavalier here. I'll still try out the Nashi and the Planar Disruption, but I think everything else looks pretty fun. It's like it's going to be sweet stuff to try out. We'll go ahead and call it a deck here. Alright, here's a look at our first Chromatic Cube deck this time around. We're going to be on black-white life gain and black-white planeswalkers, so a few pretty fun synergy things going on. We've got a good chunk of life gain in this deck off of some life-gaining removal like Oath of Kaya, as well as life-linking creatures like Null Priest, Adversary, Pearl Collector, and Lyra. Noxious Gearhulk is another life-linking removal spell. And with all that life gain, we could spit out some really big avatars with Saint Elenda at the top of our curve, but she also makes sure, even if we don't draw any other life gain cards, she's going to spit out one of those herself off of her spellbook, casting one of these life gaining cards for free. And then we also have the Pearl Collector. If we gain just a little bit of extra life, then we can get a Mox Pearl onto the board as well, because the Pearl Collector can try to guarantee the first 3 life gain at least off of an attack with them. So that is another pretty fun potential payoff. So some fun little life gain stuff going on there. And with all the life gain, we've got some cards that can pay life to do big things like cast spells for free with Nashi, or just make a ton of stuff with the black market connections, give us mana and cards and creatures. So if we're doing well on life total, we've got some great ways to spend that life. And that's all the life gain stuff. Then we just have a giant chunk of planeswalkers to try to grind out the long game with a lot of incremental value, as your planeswalkers do. And with stuff like Oath of Kaya, we might even drain our opponent as they're attacking our planeswalkers, which is pretty fun. So that's the core of the deck, but as always in Chromatic Cube, we've also just got some massive finishers like Breach the Multiverse and Massacre Worm and stuff, so should be pretty fun, should be pretty powerful, but I'm pretty sure everything we run up against is also going to be quite fun and, more importantly, quite powerful. So no idea how it's going to do, but we'll find out soon enough as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are with our opening hand, which can be a little sketchy. because we're going to be paying a bunch of life early, but if we are ramping up the curve, we're going to get some great stuff. I'm very sad that our opponent starts with Concealing Curtains, because that means they're probably going to make us discard Saint Elenda, which we just top decked here. That's just an incredible card to ramp up into. But the hand's still pretty good without the Saint Elenda. It's just like, if we could play Saint Elenda early off of these treasure tokens, that would be completely busted. In fact, I was going to say, yeah, in fact, they might just get rid of Black Market Connections to try to slow us down enough to kill us with the Revealing Eye, but we're already 1 mana away from playing Vraska and killing that, so not doing that bad. I could have hit them for 2 here. Yeah, I don't have any instants anyway, and I'm not going to block with this thing. I guess I should hit them for 2. Do a little damage out of the Guardian Idol. There's an Avacyn's Pilgrim that can ramp them up a little. There's a Breach the Multiverse. Okay, so if we can survive, we should be fine. So we need to do everything in our power to survive. So Vraska kill something, Gear Hulk kill something into Saint Elenda or Breach and just win the game off of either of those cards. Yeah, this looks like the curve. So the problem with Vraska's removal here is that we have to shoot ourselves for 2, and then whatever we remove turns into a treasure, which helps them cast something bigger against us next turn, but hopefully it's something we can deal with our Gear Hulk. Vraska is very angry. I'm trying to hear myself think. She's just yelling in my ear. Aw, binding the old gods, and they keep the treasure for now. And that also ramps them again. Picks up a forest. Alright, pretty lucky here. They just straight up have not hit a land. So the treasure didn't lead into something super explosive here. Actually, we are not going to be able to cast this Saint Elenda. We have a single white source. Do I Liliana instead of Avacyn's Pilgrim? Play a 2 loyalty Liliana to kill this thing? Or instead of Gear Hulking Avacyn's Pilgrim? We definitely kill this, like 100%. I guess I'll just Gear Hulk. And then we've got like a Liliana backup plan. That can kill 2 really big threats instead of just 1. If they manage to make a really good board here. Okay. There's O'Hare, which we can kill with Ugin. Or we can Breach here. Really safer to go for the Ugin, but Breach is hilarious. I'm just going to do it. Like, this almost definitely also kills it. Oh yeah, because we can get our own Vraska. So we get the Vraska, turn that into a treasure. And from their grave we get, oh my god, Titan of Industry? Or Cavalier of Thorns? Good grief. Yeah. Breach does seem like kind of a insta-winner, right? Thing's got 5 toughness, so Massacre Worm doesn't do anything. It's just Vraska. Boom! Rhino? This just gives Death Touch next turn, which they won't have any creatures anyway, so we don't blow that up, we get a shield counter. Or I could gain 5 to be really safe, but I'm just going to get a shield counter. Boom. Treasure. Alright, Breach the Multiverse. Appears to be as absurd as I imagined it when we drafted it, like pick 3. Yeah, I totally forgot Vraska was just straight up in our grave instead of exiled or anything. So no matter what, Breach hits Vraska, which kills their 1 creature, so that was a really safe Breach the Multiverse. Here's the Primeval Titan. That really gets their mana situation fixed, but they're facing a ton of power on our board right now, so I think they are just pretty dead. Get to turn that into a treasure. This is over lethal already. We just send it in. Don't even have to cast any more spells, and that is going to be 1-0 heading into game number 2. Our opponent unfortunately stuck on some mana there. And we also got to ramp into our insane 6 and 7 drops. All right, here we are for game number 2. We're against a Karuga companion deck, so we know they don't have any spells that cost less than 3. So this hand is fine. Like, sure, we don't have anything starting 3 or later, but neither do they. Isolated Chapel. I could play an untapped land here, and then the Chapel will come into play untapped on future turns, but, like, playing an untapped land with no one drop up anyway. Because I could pretend I have Swords to Plowshares or something, but I don't even know if they put that in this cube. Probably not. They tend to make the interaction a little weaker than in the full-on Arena Cube. Arena Cube is like the actual best cards on Arena. Chromatic Cube is like the best finishers, but weaker interaction to make those finishers really shine and help people make it to the big 6 and 7 mana blowouts. The Arena Cube, you could draft a deck like this and then just get steamrolled by mono red in like 4 turns. Or mono white. There's more variety. Aggro is much less of a thing in the Chromatic Cube, but it is still possible. I'm sure. Alright, they're going to put Karuga in hand, and this might be a bad idea, considering I can guarantee some treasure tokens here, but they have no permanents on board right now. If I can connect with Nashi, I'll get to cast something big for free, so I'm gonna gamble on that. And if they do play a good blocker, maybe I can even flash out a Wandering Emperor to win the fight with First Strike with the +1 ability. So there's other ways this might work out, even if they do play a creature. Obviously, if they just play removal, that's pretty sad. We bite the bullet and play Black Market Connections a turn later. Because we still want the treasure tokens towards this breach, for sure. Tireless Tracker, let's go. I mean, if they play one land, that's already gotten them a clue worth of value, so it's a 2-for-1 if they trade into the Nashi, so they probably just declare a block here, but that's why I was talking about the Wandering Emperor here. We can still just do that and keep Nashi around. I would be incredibly surprised if they don't block. Yeah, so we are going to have to Wandering Emperor here, but this should play fine. Kill the tracker and keep the Nashi around to attempt it again next turn. This is actually just like a sick Kamigawa Neon Dynasty draft deck, secretly. It's been a while since they flashbacked that format, hasn't it? They need to bring back Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Premier Draft at some point. It probably hasn't been that long, but it's my favorite set. My favorite draft format on Arena. It might be my favorite draft format of all time. Because it's been a very long time since I've drafted anything pre-Arena. But there were some pre-Arena draft formats I really liked. In particular, Rise of the Eldrazi was a huge one for me. So they've got their 5 mana now. They could cast a Karuga and draw 0, which I don't think they're going to do, so we don't know what they're going to play. One of these 5 unrevealed cards. Here's the Karuga. They have to play all 3 mana value or greater cards, but then they get to have this in the companion slot to go ahead and draw a bunch of cards no matter what later. Alright, so they're going to try to do something about Nashi here. I could give it First Strike pre-combat, I guess. So if they flash in a creature, we can stop that, but 1 white source, mostly like black and red and stuff, they're probably trying to like kill Nashi with removal, which the counter doesn't help with anyway. It's probably going to be better to get the 2/2 Samurai, but maybe we'll get blown out by some flash creature I'm not thinking of. Let's find out. Ooh, maybe not. Oh, yeah, it's just removal. Fair enough. We can flicker Nashi and save it. That's a perfectly fine turn. Loses the counter, but sticks around. Yeah, take action. I was trying to click on Nashi, that was a little weird. Temple finds land, 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 land. That's not a land. It's a very strong card, but it's not a land, so I think I have to bottom Ugin. I already have very strong cards that aren't lands. Here's the Samurai. Well, Leyline Binding is a 3-mana value or greater permanent, so they draw at least one card off Karuga, if that ends up being their play. But they'd have to tap out for that. And that wouldn't be particularly good, because then we can give Nashi first strike and Karuga can't block it. Well, it obviously also can't block a flyer. I think we're about to see some more hidden information. Harmonious Archon it is. Everybody's a 2-2. You're a 2-2. You're a 2-2. Oh, it's a 3-3. Never mind. I'm bad at math. I top deck the removal for it. I could Vraska and turn it into a treasure token, or I can Price of Fame it and Surveil 2. I am really looking for 2 more lands, so Surveil 2 is pretty valuable to me. And that leaves them with 2 1/1s against a 3-2 Nashi. Then I can give the Nashi the first strike so they can't block it profitably. What if I Price of Fame as a combat trick here? Does that matter? I don't think so, because I think they just go Archon on Nashi then if I don't pre-combat the Price of Fame. I think it's better to pre-combat it. You know, for mana efficiency, even though they get a treasure out of this, it might be better to just Vraska. Especially when we know they have a legendary creature coming up, so we'll be able to Price of Fame for only 2 on a future turn. Yeah, I really don't want them to double block Nashi. I'm gonna get the first strike. So they just trump with 1/1/1. Take 5. They could not jump, so they have 2 creatures to try to attack the Wandering Emperor or the Vraska with, but I would be very surprised if that's the choice. Does this still have mana value 3 or greater? It does. So Karuga is a draw 2, even with that treasure on board. So that'd be another little argument towards the Price of Fame. But again, Price of Fame will be 2 mana to get Karuga out of the way. Lets us at least play a Black Market Connections alongside it. And if Vraska and the Wandering Emperor stick on board, Vraska's like really good with a bunch of other Planeswalkers out, because we proliferate every time we do the draw. Buff up all the Planeswalkers. Actually, we proliferate the +1/+1 counters as well that the Wandering Emperor is giving, alongside the first strike. Hidden synergies, let's go. The Vraska and the Wanderer Dream Team. Cavalier of Dawn. They get to blow up one of our Planeswalkers and give us a 3/3 instead. Probably Vraska. I feel like Vraska's a little stronger. Yeah. They're both good, but Vraska being able to draw cards and proliferate onto both the Planeswalkers is kind of nasty. Okay, we did hit mana number 6. We're only 1 mana away from our complete blowout 7 drops, which feels great. Is this legendary? No. I can't Black Market Connections and Price of Fame. And I need to Black Market Connections to get Nashi in. What happens when this dies, though? Return an artifact or enchantment from your grave to hand? They have none. Okay, so no death trigger. Since it doesn't have a death trigger, I'm just going to kill it. Drown an Ichor? No. Pearl Collector? No. We're looking for untapped land, please. Which I guess the only lands we have left in our deck are all untapped lands. At this point. The only tap land is our Temple of Silence. Cool. Our Nashi has played as a 3-mana 3/2 this game, but a 3-mana 3/2 has still cleared out a lot of their blockers. So it has done work. There's 1 blocker off of red and 7, which is not enough to survive. They have 2 mana left after that. Oh, they're gonna go for the mana ramp. Interesting. Is this the scoop or do they have like a fog? That's the scoop. Okay. We are now 2-0 heading into game number 3. Here we are now for game 3 on the draw. Cheap little lifelinker trying to buy us some time to get to our 5-drop, 6-drop. Sure. It's got a good land to non-land ratio, and that is the most important thing in most games of Limited, including Cube. Well? Guardian Idol versus Null Priest of Oblivion is pretty interesting here. I'm gonna go for Null Priest, because if they don't have cheap interaction, we can actually ninjutsu Nashi down next turn. No! That's wild. The odds of them having 2 creatures here to double block a Menacer so that we can't get the Null Priest in anyway. Because now they just double block and first strike away the Null Priest if I send it in. That is disappointing. Well, I'm still going to Guardian Idol now because it means I get to Lyra next turn. Feel like the only way that this would really be bad for us is if they could cast 2 creatures for 3 mana or less, and unfortunately they could. Off of 1 spell as well, the Blade Splicer. Welcoming Vampire. Welcome. Show me your removal. Or maybe I should kill that before they can draw any cards off of it. I gain 2 by doing that as well. I don't hate that. I feel like there's a world where they kill Lyra, send in with everybody, and like draw a card in the same turn, which is pretty bad for me. So just shutting off the card draw engine seems very decent. If they don't immediately have removal for Lyra, like they don't crack back at all though. Yeah, I don't know. I can race this out with a lifelinker on board, even without Lyra right now. It's a Pearl Collector. That's actually pretty good with this hand. I think. Well, not great, because I don't need the mana that badly, but I'm pretty good at getting the 4 life gain. Gilded Lotus. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Inspiring Overseer, sure. I can Ugin and kill something or just cast a Lyra. If I Ugin and kill something, Ugin's gonna die. So let's just play Lyra. I could Nashi and cast Pearl Collector. That's... That is risky. At 15 against this board. I'm gonna do it. Let's see what we hit. This could be game-changing. Either in our favor or against our favor. Could be game-changing in a good or bad way. Alright, I'm taking 7. Let's go to 8. Free Breach the Multiverse. What's their graveyard? Their own Lyra? Sarah Paragon. Skyclave Apparition for removal? Oh boy. What if I take... Oh, I could Restoration Angel? I can have 2 lifelinking angels because I can have their Lyra and our Restoration Angel. Or I can Liliana, make them sack 2. Be left with 1 creature. Is there anything that spits out another creature here? No. So I wouldn't be left with any creatures there. I think I take their Lyra and our Restoration Angel, but there's so many options here. So we could take our Vraska. I'm gonna go safe. Let's have 3 blockers up. Actually, 4 blockers up here. This is a pretty massive change to the board state. And now, even if they kill the Lyra, we cast another Lyra and gain 4, and then Pearl Collector gives us the Mox. Again, not that the Mox really matters that much at this point, but it's still cool. And I've got that Null Priest that I bounced back to Nashi, meaning I can cast a Null Priest and reanimate a big creature in our grave later. So there's a Sun Titan. That's a big one after we just breached them. Pick up their best permanent with mana value 3 or less. That's probably Skyclave Apparition, exile the Lyra. Oh, mana value 4 or less. They can't exile Lyra with the Apparition. Pick up the Sarah Paragon. And pick up more things with that every turn. This is wild. This is wild stuff. But I think the Nashi into a free Breach the Multiverse was pretty profitable. I think we're in the lead still through the Sun Titan. Because we can kill whatever they pick up if it's too good. Oh, that's fancy. Pick up the Charming Prince. Oh, exile another creature you own? Not that you control? So they can just get their Lyra back? Okay, that's disgusting. That's actually so dumb here. Oh, good grief. Alright. That's stupidly good. That was really smart from our opponent. I don't think I would have seen that text if I were on their side of the table. But that's backbreaking. That's game ending. Because if I don't kill the Lyra, we're dying in the sky really quick. And if I don't kill the Sun Titan, they're just going to combo off still. Pick up the Welcoming Vampire. Oh, that's right. Sun Titan can't pick up the Paragon, but they can pick up the Vampire or the Apparition. They can clear a path. Really don't think there's anything we can do now. The Charming Prince steal back the Lyra was just so good. We have nothing to Null Priest, but I can get a 3-1. Our Lyra is not big enough. For 5-6, I don't have the mana to play Lyra and perpetually give lifelink. I can't do anything and give perpetual lifelink. I guess I've got the Death Toucher to block the Sun Titan when they attack in. Yeah.
I am ancient and wise. Be gone, interloper.
I don't know. It's not looking good. And then they have literally the only card in the cube that just shuts off Planeswalkers. So any Planeswalkers we draw are useless now, and we are a Planeswalker deck. Completely filthy. Yeah, they just exile the Death Toucher. Seems good. I think we're dead on board, actually. Right? Because we block there, take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's exactsies. All right. Really well played from our opponent, but also just like the actual perfect response there. If they couldn't like kill one of our creatures and steal it back, I feel like the Nashi into the Breach was probably enough. But that Charming Prince was not just the Charming Prince, but the Sun Titan to be able to pick up the Charming Prince that they milled was ridiculous. Incredible stuff there. We are 2-1 heading into game 4. All right, here we are for game 4, ramping into an Ugin and a Breach. Those are some finishers, and we have a cheap removal spell to try to not die early. Our opponent is on green and white. They start with the Unfinity Temple Garden, the Space Land. Green, white, blue. There's a Kinnan. Uh-oh. Kinnan ups all their mana ramp, and Planar Disruption does not stop Kinnan's ability. Also, I don't have the double white for the Wandering Emperor. This could be bad. But I can stop Kinnan from ever doing the 7 mana ability or attacking me, but I can't stop Kinnan from doubling up their mana rocks. Okay, luckily no mana rocks yet from them. Wayfarer's Bauble. Alright, slightly awkward. A little worse than just top decking a land, but so much better than hitting a non-land, so I don't hate it. We've actually got a choice here between the third black source to get a Massacre Worm when we know our opponent already has a Kinnan on board we can kill with it, or the second white source towards Wandering Emperor, where even if we don't top deck another land, we can cast Wandering Emperor. Uh-oh. It's probably really good in this format. Search for up to 5 lands, different names, exile them, then shuffle, get a random one each turn. Yeah, so it's like another Field of the Dead enabler. I can blow it up with an Ugin if I top deck a land. And that just means they got 1 land off of it, the rest are gone forever. They did not put a Field of the Dead in there, it's all just regular Ram. Okay. I guess that makes sure they don't draw those lands either. They moving to end step? Yeah, they're moving to end step. So I think I grab the planes so that I have something like guaranteed to play here. Because if I don't specifically hit a black source to Massacre Worm the Kinnan, I can still Ugin away the Kinnan, or Ugin away the Omen Path Journey. Right, so if I top deck any land, I still have a good play next turn. By picking the planes, even if I don't top deck a land, I'm doing something, which is pretty important. Alright, we don't top deck the land. So I can Wandering Emperor or I can Price of Fame. They're on 5 out of 7 for Kinnan's ability, so they're not going to use Kinnan's ability here anyway. So we'll hold off. And if Kinnan attacks, exile with the Wandering Emperor. If Kinnan doesn't attack, then we'll Price of Fame something in the end step. Solemn Simulacrum, that also dies to Massacre Worm. Is that it for the turn? Be a little awkward for me. Yeah. I guess because if I top deck a land for Massacre Worm, I just make a 2/2 here. I don't want a Price of Fame when I could just top deck into Massacre Worm. Okay, we didn't. This is our last opportunity to kill Kinnan before they get to combo off with him. So we need to kill Kinnan. We need them out of here. Yeah. Sorry, Massacre Worm. Oh no! I have to mill these? The lands are running for their lives. They don't want to be any part of this game. Make this a 3/3 so I can block Solemn, or I just make another 2/2. Play around removal. I'll just make another 2/2.
May your blade strike true.
Just keep these to protect the Wandering Emperor. Our opponent has all the mana in the world to do whatever they want, so by now they can cast their own Breach-style bombs and we're super dead. So we just have to hope they don't have them until I have the mana to also play mine. Okay. These aren't Breach-level bombs, but they're pretty bad. There's the Massacre Worm mana. This could also be Liliana, in which case they sacrifice Solomon, a 3/3 beast. Okay, yeah, Liliana's pretty bad here. Ugin's okay. I can deal with the flyer, but then they draw 2 cards to play next turn, so it's not great. I think I would rather just Planar Disruption the Atsushi, which means casting nothing else this turn. It's just Planar Disruption. But then they sack the Atsushi to the Huntsman's Redemption, get its trigger, and find their best creature and put it into their hand. Yeah, we don't have good options right now, do we? Maybe I can try to like send in and get some good Massacre Worm value. I've got Vigilance here, so the Massacre Worm value is free. If they trade Solomon to a 2/2, then Liliana's going to be great. If they block any of these with Atsushi, then Massacre Worm's great. So this is like the only way we might be able to actually get somewhere good with one of these cards, and There we go. Now we can wipe the board. They don't get to Huntsman's Redemption anymore. They just have to cast whatever they draw off the Atsushi. Which is still bad for us, but at least they don't get to tutor out their best card anymore. Oh, they're gonna get the treasures? Uh-oh. Am I gonna get, like...
Remember your training.
Crackle with Powered? I feel like I'm gonna get Crackle with Powered. They're just gonna shoot me for 20 with an X mana spell. If they're getting treasure tokens instead of drawing 2 cards when they have this much mana already and getting more off of the Omen Path journey, yeah. I'm surprised they didn't wait.
Well, this was unpleasant.
They don't go for the lethal Crackle with Power. They just pop it right now, deal with the Planeswalkers, which means we've got to turn to Breach and try to turn things around. Let's see. Ooh, how does Uro work? When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. Okay, well, it didn't technically escape. God dang it, which means that we're letting them have an Uro. Gross. Ooh, we can take their Galta and put a Massacre Worm on the board as well this turn. And the Massacre Worm kills the Elvish Mystic? Sure, right? That's the coolest play, right? I mean, Roxanne's really good, Minsk and Boo's really good, but Alta's next level. What do we have? Saint Elenda? Oh yeah, Saint Elenda's massive. What's the final ability? I gotta see what the final ability on this is first. 2 creatures get +2/+2 trample. That doesn't matter. They're not gonna have creatures left. So we don't need to get the artifact enchantment removal. We just draw the card. Or do we get another creature? I could Faith's Fetters. Nothing to Faith's Fetters either. So let's draw a card. I'm gonna have a lot of creatures here already. Here's a free Massacre Worm to kill the Mystic. Here puts me back to 9, and I get another 4/4 off Saint Elendra, since I gained 4. Boom! Well, if there's anything that we are showing off in this draft, uh-oh. Uh-oh! Let's say if there's anything we're showing off, it is that the Breach of the Multiverse is incredible. But Genesis Ultimatum also very, very, very good. And they Genesis into the Atali to cast 2 cards for each library? This is ridiculous. Okay, so they just get, they get 2 rhinos. Or no, they get a rhino and they get a shield counter here. Then Atali casts what? No, not a Planeswalker, not Vraska! That's removal. So that deals with Saint Elenda, probably? Saint Elenda is the only card I'd be really unhappy to lose here, I think. Guess missing out on Galtz is pretty bad, too. Atali turns into a massive infector. Yeah. So we need that to not happen. So Ugin Atali, Planar Disruption Vraska? Something like that. They get to just escape this Uro now too. Yeah, they're definitely ahead after that Genesis Ultimatum. Genesis Ultimatum with Atali in deck is really gross. Turn it from a 3-for-1 into at least a 5-for-1. It's big yikes from Genesis Ultimatum. Okay. What? Oh, they milled out! Oh my god, they milled their whole deck! I wasn't even looking! Oh, what an oops moment. That was like the only way we win. They cast a draw 3. and left themselves with 0 cards in deck. So we just passed turn. Oh my god. Yeah, and we just top decked a land, so like I could stop 2 things, but I don't think that would be enough to not die. At least in like 2 turns. That's insane. Oh my god. That was wild. Alright, that's Chromatic Cube for you right there. We like did an insane breach multiverse and still ended up way behind to a massive Genesis ultimatum, but then somehow still won because they just did so much stuff that they milled themselves out. Insanity. We are 3-1 now, at least a 50-50 win rate for this draft. But we'll see how it goes from here heading into game number 5. Alright, here we are for game 5. No black source yet, so if we top deck like a Massacre Worm or something, that's pretty bad. We've got a lot of mana ramp to get towards the Ugin. We can turn 3 Wandering Emperor. We've got the double white already. I'm pretty into this. Playing against black-red, probably the most aggressive color pair. So I am a little scared, but that Oath of Kaya is an excellent draw if we find a black source to go with it. Gross. Braid my mana away. Take 3. Swamp. Swamp, swamp, swamp. Might be over, folks. We do not find a swamp. Pretty much next turn, the game is basically over. But yeah, they stopped us from Wandering Emperor this turn with that Abrade. Okay. There's the swamp. Right on time. That was kind of the last opportunity. I can Oath the Jajar away, or I can just Wandering Emperor and still gain 2 when I do that. I think we're on Wandering Emperor here. I guess if they don't attack with Jadar here, then they can get it around the Wandering Emperor. But they do attack with it. So we can Wandering Emperor it. I could take 1 extra damage and wait till their end step so they can't use Sorcery Speed Burn to kill the Wandering Emperor. That would be reasonable.
Just underwhelming. You're done.
Okay, looks all good for us here. No creatures to play. We've got the Bauble. I need to not sack it immediately, though. Because I need to have the option of Price of Faming if something really bad happens. We're going to wait till their end step to crack the Bauble. Electrostatic Blast, sad. We were so close to getting a Samurai as well. I guess I could have insta-sacked the Wandering Emperor to get the Samurai, but then they could have blasted the Samurai and we are at the exact same outcome here. They have 1 blast engrave, we have no creature or Planeswalker on board. Looks like they're flooding out here, which is real lucky. Because that Abrade on our Mana Rock was like a real good play from our opponent that locked us for a little bit. There we go, Saint Elenda. They shouldn't have something that can counter her, so at the least we get a little 2-for-1 here. I don't think I turned this into equipment. I can cast everything in my hand, but if I top deck my Breach the Multiverse or something, I'll be real unhappy that I turned this into an equipment here. I guess that's only like 1 card in the deck. Whatever. I'm turning it into an equipment. It could be a bad idea. Draw the card to gain the 4. Or sorry, draw the card to get the 3-2. Let's get a wide board. Alright, they need to kill Saint Elenda right now, or we also get a 4-4. But now, even if they do kill Saint Elenda, again, she was still a 2-for-1, she still got us a 3-2 body, and 4 life. The blast is the one that draws them another card. It's not the one that like lets them kill an extra creature, so not worried about them like shooting Elenda and Cleric for 2. But they don't have the instant speed removal that works, so that one Saint Elenda has given us quite the board. There's a Virtue of Persistence, that's a good one. Kill the Cleric and now they have the 7 mana thing, reanimate the best creature from a graveyard every turn. There's a big old Soar in here. Draw a card. Elenda gets to keep spitting out lifelinkers though. And with the Everflame equipped to her, they're going to be at least 7 power. I can make a 10/10. Or she's spitting out avatars, not lifelinkers. I think I accidentally said spitting out lifelinkers. 7 mana. Let's go 3 mana. Oath of Kaya the Sorin and send a 4/4 his way. And then just slap an Everflame onto Saint Elenda. Like, I could play an Ugin instead, but this still seems really good. I want to get a 10/10. I can't not resist here. It's just too funny to get a 10/10. 10/10 Avatar? Yeah, look at that. They are super dead on board. So yeah, slam down Virtue of Persistence and die. Taking 21 damage on board at 15 life. There's the concession. A little rocky at the start for sure. Kept a monocolored hand. We're really hoping for our mana rocks to do a lot of work. They blew up one of them, and it took us a little time to find the second color, but while we were getting aggroed out a tiny bit by the Jadar, our opponent did not have a lot of follow-through with that, luckily. They flooded out a bit, didn't hit too many other cheap aggressive creatures, and we managed to find the big life gain stuff to really swing things around and get some big 2 and 3 for 1s, so great stuff from the deck, and we are now 4-1, guaranteed at a positive win rate for the return of the Chromatic Cube. Alright, here we are on the play against the Lutri deck, which doesn't tell us much about our opponent's deck. They're probably blue or red and playing a lot of instants and sorceries, but that is most blue or red decks, and Lutri's a free companion in Cube. You're always going to have only one of every non-land. So, are we supposed to mulligan this really slow hand that starts on turn 5? Probably, but it's got to breach the multiverse at 7, which, if they're not playing counterspells, probably wins, so I'm just going to keep it. I'm hoping that the Lutri means that they're probably like more of a blue deck, and they're going to be pretty slow, in which case we can dirtle around. The Cube is a bit of a dirtle fest. Alright, they are blue and red. They only have to be one or the other for the Lutri, because the hybrid mana cost. They might just be full-on blue-red spells. Nope, Grixis. There's the Swamp. There's Mind Stone. 2 mana rocks. Gotta love them in the Cube. 1 turn away from dropping Lyra or Vraska. Celestus. Uh-oh, another mana rock, so they are really ramping. Swarm Saboteur as well. Alright, I guess it is probably Vraska then. Ooh. No, it's not. Now that I top-decked Wayfarer's Bauble, it's Drownin' Icar plus Bauble. Because we're definitely not just playing Lyra. We need to kill that thing, because we don't want to be in a position where they blow up Lyra and then hit us and get the Virus Beetle. So no matter what our play was, there was going to be some kind of removal. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, 6th off of Bauble. If I top-deck a land, we can breach next turn and win while they're tapped out of a counterspell. I guess they could have a really specific, really narrow counterspell for only 2 mana. Crucius is really good. They discard like a land and seek a card with greater mana value every turn. We're on triple black and we're on double white. We need to be on triple white in case we draw our 1 triple white spell. Yep, discard a land, get a guaranteed non-land. Crucius doing gross things, and we missed the land, sadly. So let's just turn their Crucius into a treasure so they can't keep doing that. Seems reasonable. I guess I could Davriel to kill the Crucius, and then they can never even reanimate it or anything. That's kind of good. They don't have any of the mana rocks that turn into creatures here, so. Sure. And then I can try to figure out what on earth the offers and conditions are. Maybe. Shieldred. Well, that's nasty. Goodbye, Davriel. Unless I animate the Guardian Idol, which is certainly not worth it with Breach in hand. We just say goodbye to Davriel. Young Pyromancer. Okay. Top deck Liliana, that's the best draw in the deck. We kill both those. We did not. Isolated Chapel, still one of the best draws in the deck. Say hello to Breach the Multiverse. Ooh, an Emrakul? When you cast this spell, gain control of your opponent's next turn. It's still a 13/13 flying trample protection from instants. Oh, a Tali though? Nope, it's a Tali. Sorry, opponent. Take an Ugin and kill Shieldred with that, I guess. Yeah, at least our hits weren't good from our grave, but a Tali off of Breach is so stupid. One of the grossest things to happen in March of the Machine draft. What do they got for 1 mana? Lightning Bolt? Lightning Bolt the Ugin so I can't use it as removal? Okay, it's pretty gross. Planar Disruption, Eldest Reborn. Yes, I would like to cast both, but I want the Eldest Reborn to resolve before the Planar Disruption. How do I do that? Put Planar Disruption on the stack first. Wait, what? Okay, apologies to opponent. I'm trying to do this the right way. I clicked on it and then it just... Each player exiles cards until they exile an online. You may cast any number of spells without paying their mana costs. Literally the second I clicked on it, it cast it. I thought I click on all the ones I want to cast and then click OK. I don't know. Our opponent's over it anyway. But I really wanted to make sure that the Eldest Reborn would resolve before the Planar Disruption, and I thought it was the kind of thing where they all go on the stack at the same time. So technically you want Planar Disruption on the stack first, then you want Eldest Reborn on the stack, because the stack resolves in reverse order, where the last thing you put on the stack is the first thing to resolve. So then the Eldest Reborn resolves, they have to sack something, then Planar Disruption resolves. They can't sacrifice the creature I put the Planar Disruption onto. I'm guessing it was going to let me click on all the cards still, and this is just like I have to declare a target the second I put the Planar Disruption on the stack. So I put that on the stack, then I put the Reborn on the stack, then Reborn resolves, then Disruption resolves on Shieldred. I don't know though. Arena made me a little scared though when it just got rid of my ability to click on more cards, but it doesn't matter. We're still very far ahead there, and our opponent knows it, so they are over it. And we are 5-1, I believe, at a guaranteed profit. Yep, it costs 4,000 gold to play in these events. So once you are at 5 wins or more, you're getting all of your gold back, and you're getting all of the rare rewards for free. Very sweet stuff as we head into round 7. All right, this will probably be our first mulligan of the draft. If we top deck a black source, then the hand's actually pretty good, because we just slam down the black market connections and start getting treasures and just try to win. But we do need double black to get things really going, but I guess a single black gives us treasures. We are on the draw. You know what? No. 0 mulligans, all draft. Only perfect draws. Don't worry about it. 47% of our deck right now is lands. We want to hit one in the next 3 draw steps. 2 at this point. Okay, there's a land. Not bad at all. Obviously, the black source would be better. We would love a black source by turn 3, but if we can just keep hitting any lands to keep playing a land every turn, that'll be reasonable. The gamble does not look to be paying off particularly well right now. We hit 2 non-lands and 1 land, and the land is a white source. Ooh, there's the black source. And they're on mono black right now, so they can't counter the black market connections. We've officially missed 0 land drops, but we did miss playing the black market connections a turn sooner, sadly. We get to choose this after we draw, which is really nice. We get that extra information before we need to choose what we're doing with that. Heartflame Duelist, just a 3/1. Their instants and sorceries have a lifelink now as well. Okay, so I already hit my land for turn, so I don't need to draw a card to still play a land this turn. I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana without using the treasure. So I can cast a Lyra. So I can get a treasure and a shapeshifter, cast a Lyra, keep that treasure around, so next turn I get another treasure and I can cast Breach even if I don't top deck another land. Feel like that's reasonable to do it this way then. I could also just cast a Liliana right now, but I don't think I want to do that. This shapeshifter is an angel, by the way, which is why it's super sweet to get the creature here. Now they definitely need to kill Lyra. There's Kaya, and goodbye Lyra. But now we get to breach the multiverse next turn. And pop off. Okay, I can breach without the treasure even. Without the extra treasure, I should say. I kind of want to shoot myself for 6, because I'm a greedy man. But I don't need the card that badly. I'm not going to need the creatures. I'm reanimating 2 things. I'll just take the treasure. I have to pick at least one thing. I'll take the treasure here. All right. Reach that multiverse. We hit a Massacre Worm. That's hilariously good. And they've got Eternal Wanderer. I can metamorph artifact or creature. That can't be a planeswalker. Sarah Paragon can let me play stuff from grave. Eternal Wanderer can't kill Kaya either. We have no way to kill the Kaya. We're definitely on Massacre Worm. Oh wait, I just killed the Kaya with the Shapeshifter because they have no blockers. Yeah, never mind. So we just take their best threat, which is the Eternal Wanderer. Oh no, they can crew the Bankbuster and block the Shapeshifter to keep Kaya around. Never mind. But then they lose the Bankbuster as well and take 6 this turn still. And Kaya can't kill anything. Kaya can only get the +1 ability next turn, which doesn't do a ton by herself. Oh, I can exile the Bankbuster for a turn. It'll come back with all the charge counters, but then Kaya's dead. I feel like that's worth it.
Have a nice trip.
I think that's worth it. They can dump a bunch of mana into the Bankbuster to draw a few more cards again, if I can kill Kaya. Unless they spend removal on the 3/2. These are complex games. Cube drafts are just, they're something else. But I'm sure Modern Horizons 3 coming up is going to be pretty complex as well, so it'll be decent practice for that. Only a couple weeks away now. That is going to be one of the craziest sets ever released on Arena. Actually, the craziest set ever released on Arena. Not standard legal though, so it's not going to be for everybody. But it will be wild. Can they Yorion back everything they own? Own and control. Okay, Yorion cannot steal back the Eternal Wanderer. Like a Charmed Prince can. Invasion of Tolvada. Return a non-battle permanent from their grave to the battlefield, so just get Kaya back and exile somebody. I think that's their best permanent. Yep. Exile the Wanderer, the Massacre Worm, or whatever.
As innocent people are slaughtered.
Exile the Eternal Wanderer. Cool. I'll draw the card here. Find a Nashi. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. I can cast a Liliana and still have the 2 mana version of Life of Fame up, potentially. Or Price of Fame.
Warrior Queen Necromancer has a nice ring to it. Putrid, but effective. I gotta bet these jobs.
Anything good to Null Priest right now? Not really. I've got a flyer. But I can redo a Massacre Worm if I Null Priest. That's pretty cool. So Yorion can flicker the invasion now and exile another card with Kaya. That is something. Oh, they come back at the end step. Okay, so they can't get the Kaya back. I'm gonna go ahead and kill this. Have all my mana on tap next turn to kill things with Ugin instead. Or the Liliana minus. Ooh, Twining Twins the Yorion. If they... When does it come back? Beginning of the next end step. So my next end step. Since I did that during their end step. Okay, this is really weird. Okay, so it's not a blocker anymore anyway. We're gonna Massacre Worm, kill 2 of our creatures, let us draw 2 here. They can crew the Bankbuster in response to me killing the Massacre Worm.
They were a lousy servant anyway.
Planar Disruption. So... don't think I can lethal them here. Is a problem. I can get close, because I can... Ugin the Massacre Worm. They respond by crewing the Bankbuster. I then Planar Disruption the Bankbuster as well. They go to 8 from the Massacre Worm dying. Then that gets Planar Disruption. They go to 2 life. After all is said and done. Oh, and then I can... Each player sacks 2 creatures. I actually can lethal them here, I think. Like exact lethal. So force them to crew the Bankbuster and take 2 when they do it. They crew the Bankbuster. I shut it off as a blocker. Oh, they didn't crew it? Smart play from our opponent. Because if they crewed it, I could make them sack it and they go to 0. Because I hit for 6 and then make them sack it. Very smart play from our opponent. Is there any other way to get 2 more damage then? No, I would need to get a legendary creature for like free here, which I can't do. Alright. Could ninjutsu Nashi, but that is so risky right now. They're gonna have a 4/5 flyer, and I can't do anything about it. So I'm taking 4 in the sky, period. And if I Planar Disruption the Bankbuster, they can just flicker it with the Yorion anyway. Alright, it's gonna be real close. Let's see what happens. So they get the invasion back in this next end step now. All these end step flicker abilities have been making things real confusing. Like this in the end step, so this comes back in the next end step, which means it's already an end step, so the other card's not going to come back until the next end step. The chain just keeps going. Okay, I'm at 4. Can they invasion something that kills me here? Metamorph again on the Masquerade. Oh, right, yeah. Nice. Really well played from our opponent. If we played that better, we probably could have won that. Actually, would have been safer to just not play more creatures, I guess. They could still put us to 2 just by playing anything to crew the Bankbuster. They hit us for 8 if I play no creatures. Yeah, that was really smart. We do draw the cards before we take the damage, so it's a tiny chance. I find instant speed removal to kill that, and then I win. Nope. If we hit instant speed removal, then we make them lose the life before we lose the life. Alright. Well played from our opponent, well earned. We certainly could have won that with different lines, but Cube is a complex beast, and I was not paying attention to all the loopy nonsense. Because it's not my deck, I don't know all the synergies. So we are 5-2 heading into game number 8. Alright, here we are for game 8. Pretty solid opener. Try a turn 3 Davriel and maybe we will get to see some conditions. And some offers. If they play a good creature, we just kill the good creature. Awkward. Awkward, because I think we kill that. Instead of just leaving Davriel hanging on the -2. Yeah. Maybe I will never see the offers and conditions.
Well, if you're not here for tea, state your purpose. The sooner you're gone, the better.
Well, I think our opener was pretty reasonable. Unfortunately, we drew a couple more black sources before any more white sources for Saint Elenda, so she is going to be very far away. Alright, well, we gotta get it back up to 3 loyalty to kill that. At least we make them discard a card if they attack Davriel. It's pretty cool. So if they want to kill Davriel, they have to discard a card, and then we might even be able to just trade with the Pearl Collector anyway, to keep Davriel around. That could be pretty cool. Mono black from our opponent so far. They are going to try to wipe out Davriel, so they have to discard a card. Boom, discard a card. And here's the blocker unless they have instant speed removal. Boom, we trade. And Davriel sticks around to keep being annoying, and now I have something to reanimate with Null Priest, so I have a play next turn. Uh-oh. That's not good for me. Spending every upkeep, return a creature with power less than its power to the battlefield and make it equal. So the Null Priest comes back as a 3 -2, I guess? Okay, so it doesn't actually do anything right now. Actually, we're fine. It can bring back a 3 -2. Flicker that for fun, but I don't have the mana to kick it again, even if that's how it worked, which it isn't. You have to kick it when you cast it, not when it enters the battlefield. Did it do the thing? I heard a little stuff. Yeah, it did the thing. Now it's a 0 -2. Oh, base power set to 3, but the perpetual is still -3. That's so funny. They turned it from a -3, -2 in their grave to a 0, -2 in their grave. And if they had any enter the battlefield or leaves the battlefield effects, then they would have triggered those, which is cool. Alright, the Restoration Angel has been drowned. There's an Oath of Kaya, so now it's going to be even more annoying for them to attack our Planeswalker, and we can accept some terms and conditions here then. What do we got? Accept an offer. Return 2 random creatures from grave to hand and buff them. Return a random with the highest mana value to the battlefield. Get an emblem with whenever you draw a card, gain 2. Interesting. We only have 1 creature in grave, so let's just put it on the board then. We just take Davriel's offer instead of a bit of life gain. Sure. What is the condition? Lose 6, sack 2 permanents, or exile 2 cards from hand. Let's lose 6. That seems fun. Okay, that was cool. We did some terms and conditions. I probably missed some Guardian Idol damage earlier. Almost definitely at some point in the draft, but probably in this game as well. All right, there's the concession from our opponent. We are now 6-2. We get to head into the final boss, the final battle on our first draft of the returned Chromatic Cube. So win or lose, this will be our final game of Magic for today, deciding if we're just hitting pretty great value on a pretty good draft, or if this is a full trophy run, potential 7 winner. Let's find out. This is a rampy hand. We love to see that. Opponent's on the play, though. So we will be naturally a little behind on curve. But maybe we can flip that around with this mana ramp. So I'm going to turn to Idol. So do I play tap land into Idol, into Pearl Collector plus Bauble into sack Bauble the turn after that? That kind of makes sense as a curve to me. I guess I get rid of that because I don't actually have any 6 or 7 mana cards in the hand right now, and I already have 6 mana. There's a Lyra. Alright, so there's our first card to ramp into. Perfectly happy to do that. Land War Visionary. Our opponent is also ramping up. Draw a card, get some mana out of that. Could shut off the mana ability. That is an activated ability. But I can also set up my own ramp. Pearl Collector Bauble. Then we go Lyra. Then we have Disruption plus Bauble for whatever they ramp into. The treasure map. So they're still setting up for now. No! Goodbye, Pearl Collector. Let's see, you deal with a Lyra. Or... Nope. Well... Yeah. I can say, or I can play Restoration Angel first, just flash that in during their end step. And then the turn I play Lyra, I can immediately gain like 4, but if I don't have like a big life gain trigger like Pearl Collector anyway, then I think we're fine. Fine just running them out separately. Getting the bigger one down first. Selvala, uh-oh. That is a good triggered ability, right? Yeah, whenever you cast a creature spell, that is a triggered ability, not an activated ability. So even if I play in a disruption this, they're going to keep getting 1/1 mercenary tokens. I'm just going to have to hope that I can beat 1/1 mercenary tokens, because I'm going to play in a disruption that anyway. Stop it from making 1,000,000 mana and hitting for 4 every turn. And we just try to beat them in the sky here. We're going to be attacking for 9 in the sky next turn. Even if they cast a removal spell, I can... Oh, this is non-angels only. Never mind. If they cast removal, they actually do get to kill Lyra. We cannot save Lyra from removal with Restoration Angel. Oh, no. Now they just get to blow up my planar disruption? That's really filthy. Blow up the planar disruption and they have a giant reach blocker. So we need to find some more of our removal. But we definitely have more, so there is a chance. Now I can't afford to spend the turn on Wayfarer's Bauble because our Restoration Angel isn't really going to change the stats on board much. Alright, blow up Planar Disruption, get a shield counter on Titan of Industry. I guess? No! Get a Rhino and a shield counter. Alright, still really good for our opponent. But they're gonna let Selvala stay pacified. I've got triple black, I've got triple white, doesn't matter. Noxious Gear Hulk. That shield counter coming in quite handy. I can Gear Hulk and then I can Restoration Angel the Gear Hulk later. If I could do both of these right now, then I could attack with Lyra, first strike the shield counter away, and then Gear Hulk here. I guess I probably just let... I don't want to just, like, Gear Hulk the shield counter, because then if they kill the Gear Hulk, I can't Restoration Angel the Gear Hulk and kill the Titan anyway, so I kind of want to trade Lyra into this Titan. I still have a flying threat later, and if they don't kill the Gear Hulk, I can still be quite a bit ahead. No blocks is fine, too. Then I'll Gear Hulk the 4/4. Zagwena. Helena and Elena. These are not removal spells I'm seeing. Helena and Elena's like a ton of power on the board every turn, like permanent power as well. The +1/+1 counters and haste. Alright, big Gwenna's gonna do big things here. No attacks. Alright. Another land. When the center's battlefield, exile a non-angel, then return it. It returns it immediately. So, in theory, full control mode, they block. We kill the shield counter. And then once the shield counter pops, we flicker Gear Hulk before regular combat damage. So we go pop. Resto the Gear Hulk. Titan's gone. That's sick. Alright, we've got 9 power in the sky. They do have Helena and Elena. They can chump block. But they cannot buff Helena and Elena with their own ability. They can only put the +1/+1 counters elsewhere. And they have to deal 41 damage to us. So I'm not really scared about the crackback either. They scried to the top, so I think they found the removal for Lyra, which dramatically slows down our clock. Maybe something even more explosive. We've seen how crazy cards in this cube can be, like a Genesis Ultimatum or something. Breach the Multiverse. That's been a big one today, obviously, since we've got that in our deck. 5 +1/+1 counters onto the Visionary. Could chump 7 with the Guardian Idol, but I might be able to chump more later. Oh, no attacks. Never mind. They scried, burn down the house to the top for a one-sided board wipe. Alright, and now we have to basically top deck Breach the Multiverse or something. Or else we're taking 12 a turn. We're on a 4-turn clock. I guess 5 because I can chump with the Guardian Idol one time. But we are in a top deck war, and our opponent doesn't even have to draw anything to get out of it. We do, and they get to draw 3 extra cards off the cove. Yeah, seems bad. I think we are in the losing seat right now. We haven't drawn any of our Planeswalkers, so we still have a lot of really big draws left in the deck. None of our Planeswalkers are our Breach. None of our 7-drops, honestly. So we have both the Breach and the crazy lifelink thing. So I think all of our most impactful plays are still left in the deck. It's not completely over. It is completely over. They drew probably the best card in their deck. Golos is one of the best cards in the cube. Completely disgusting. Finds your best land, which is often Field of the Dead, which spits out a zombie every time they play a land. They don't have the Field of the Dead, but they do have the Cataracts to make sure they have the mana to use the other ability of Golos, which is, if you have nothing to do in your hand, well, just cast the best 3 cards out of the top of your library for free. I mean, for 7 mana, but you cast everything that you hit off of it. And we hit a land. Alright, well that's game. Technically not dead on board, but Golos completely just slam dunk windmill slams us off of the top deck war here. And again, it was a quote-unquote top deck war where our opponent didn't even need to draw anything good. If we just hit lands, we are still actively dying. So, our opponent hitting probably the best card left in their deck, and us hitting land is a definite loss. Prismatic Bridge is very similar to Golos. I think the Golos is much better, but this one's more fun. You just flip cards till you hit something guaranteed, and play that one thing each turn. Again, I could chump 7, but they're about to play some giant stuff for free, so it might be a bigger chump next turn, I don't know. Roxanne. Put us to 12, get more mana. This buys us like 1 turn, but they have an active Prismatic Bridge now. So we Null Priest and Gear Hulk, and we have 2 chumpers. I guess I could pick up Lyra and equip Lyra with the Iron Crag and have an 8/8 flying first striking lifelinker. An 8/8 first striking lifelinker is enough to block any of this and survive. The problem is, if Prismatic Bridge or Golos hits any removal, we die. But it does feel like the best play to maybe find us like a counterattack lethal, because then we can like swing back for 8 out of 10. Maybe get them to randomly die. Obviously, the safer play to just stall out is to play the Gear Hulk, but then it's going to be Gear Hulk, kill Golos, and just, you know, let the bridge pop off and just be all on chumps. Null Priest dies to Roxanne, but Gear Hulk can chump one of these two. I don't know. I think I'm going to do the Lyra thing here. Oh, I let it auto-tap our Guardian Idol. That's pretty loose. Actually, it doesn't matter. If we didn't tap with Guardian Idol, we still would have only had 1 untapped land to animate it. It can't be a blocker this turn anyway. Okay, they only hit a Spring Bloom Druid off of the the Prismatic Bridge, which means they have to hit something off the Golos. But that's easy enough. Or they could have just top-decked, because the Prismatic was a random exile. They do have 1 card in hand, still 1 card they just drew. They top-decked, nice. well, I mean, what can you do there? They drew significantly better than us post-board wipe when they already had the better board. It is what it is. 6-3 is the final record. Don't think there was anything we could really do in the final game, but our second loss for sure was definitely winnable. I was just not seeing all of the flicker, reanimate, synergy things going on with the metamorph, so didn't find the good lines to play around that. But I'll still take it. Very positive win rate, leaving the event with more gold than we spent to enter, and some free random rare rewards, and this was a nice showing of the black-white archetype in the format. Looks like it is a very Planeswalker-heavy archetype, so you've got some cards like the Oath of Kaya that can stop your opponent from attacking your Planeswalkers, and Davriel's +1 works well with other Planeswalkers. Vraska 0 works well with other Planeswalkers, so there's actually a lot of these little miniature Planeswalker synergies in black-white, which is pretty cool. That's pretty cute. But then also the classic life gain synergies. Gain a bunch of life and then pay a bunch of life for something like Nashi. Cast a Breach the Multiverse for 0 mana. That was pretty fun. Somehow we lost that game. But it was still really fun. And then other life gain synergies like Saint Elenda spitting out gigantic avatars. We made like a 10-10 avatar with her one time. That was unstoppable stuff. Really cool stuff from the Chromatic Cube overall. We had a bunch of incredibly explosive games, both ourselves and our opponents doing really ridiculous things, as you do in the Chromatic Cube. But that's going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.